Hello, Jenny.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good. I'm good. I know we
So
got a
good.
lot to talk about. It's a fun time of year.
Indeed, indeed. And we could be talking forever for sure. This is one of our favorite topics to talk about, accessibility. And before we dive into that, I would like to first ask you why Microsoft is also engaged in disability policies.
Oh, we've been in. So it's lovely to be here. It's great to be virtual on the screen. And just as means of maybe introduction, which might help to explain so much before we dig into that. I'm the Chief Accessibility Officer at Microsoft, sitting here in my home office in Seattle. Um, and I've had the privilege of being in this role for 7+ years. Microsoft has been in accessibility and disability a lot longer than that. I think we found the original mail that kicked off accessibility efforts back in the late 90s from Bill Gates. We actually found that recently. Why are we in it? Well, we have a mission as a company to empower every person, every organization on the planet. Disability is enormous. You know that, I know that. Um, it's a part of our human. It's one of the biggest growing demographics. And how we empower people, in particular with technology, but how we empower our employees. We also hire and have 220,000 global employees. We're a big employer of talent. Many of those are people with disabilities. In the US, that number is heading up to 8%, and we know that's trending up, more likely to be in the teens and 20s. So it's crucial for us to be at the forefront of disability policy, accessibility, leadership, and helping to create that future for people.
Thank you very much, Jenny. I did not introduce myself. I assume all our audience will know you for sure. And in my case, I'm Alejandro Moledo, and I'm the Deputy Director and Head of Policy at the European Disability Forum. And very happy also to be here with you. And sorry to just jump in because we've been told that we don't have much time. So I skipped the introductions and right to it. So today's in the Accessibility Summit, we will be discussing one of the hot topics at the moment in the EU, which is the European Accessibility Act. This has been a very important piece of legislation for the European disability movement, for which we've been campaigning for years and for many, many years. And now we are in the process of making the Accessibility Act a reality. And we are very glad to be partnering with Microsoft to really look at the impact that the Accessibility Act will have in different products, in different services, different sectors. So I'd like to ask you, Jenny, what would be this impact for Microsoft and also for all your customers around the world?
And first, Alejandro, thank you for what you do, and our partnership. And I know you partner with so many organizations and member states, and it's such a complex role that you have. And we're so grateful for you and how you do it. Um, Microsoft is keen, and one of the reasons that we have this summit here with over 600 folks already registered as we record this session. Um, the EAA is an incredibly crucial piece of work, and on so many different levels. And I think how are we really thinking about it, is it's going to provide a huge level of consistency, meaning that folks, no matter where you live, can get the wide range of products and services and feel comfortable, feel confident about the bar of accessibility that's within them. Um, and I think it's that step difference that this is going to make in the bar of expectation, hopefully, and also it's going to help to tackle some of the fundamental gaps that exist that when accessibility is absent, we know happens. Um, so I think it's wonderful that this is really leaning into the foundation that's been built in other parts of the world with the UN Convention of Rights of People with Disabilities, which we were just talking about before we hit record, which I know you're joining. I'll be there in New York as well, just next week, and engaged in a global conversation after that. And I think it's something that rising tide, all ships float. It's probably the best analogy, which hopefully I got right, in how we go forward. What does that mean for Microsoft? I think it establishes a new bar, that as standards evolve and concrete, the specifics of that will shine through, and then we can really make sure that we're delivering against it, building on the legacy of everything that we've been doing so far. Those standards exist in other parts of the world, and this is a new level that I think the EAA is going to hit. We welcome that. We want that. And we're kind of excited to see how it's going to drive even more innovation for us. And what we find is that these standards create a platform for that, because it illustrates to us what are the needs of various parts of the European Union. And some of those are going to be different than standards that we see in other parts of the world. And I'll say that we see the innovation opportunities. We've already got beautiful things coming through, whether it's captioning in the heart of Teams or in Windows now, offline, which connectivity is so important, or seeing sign language, more easy to find and easy to use. So many things I think are incredibly valuable as part of this, and I'm excited to see it all concretely come back down. But I do know that the business perspective is only really part of the conversation. So let me turn it back to you, Alejandro, because you're in front of this going all the way across member states, and you're hearing how it's being embraced and incorporated into national laws. What's the temperature that you're seeing? I'm really curious what you're finding as you go through.
Well, we agree very much with what you have said, Jenny. We believe that this piece of legislation is definitely being a turning point for Europe, for the European Union, in as for accessibility legislation. In the past, accessibility was a vague term that was not specified or detailed down, or there were different interpretation of what accessibility meant in practice across sectors and across member states, and even within the disability community, and obviously among policymakers. So we very much welcome this the adoption of the act, of the Accessibility Act, and we are supporting very much, as you said, our members at national level to really take advantage of all the possibilities and the opportunities that this directive brings to at national level as well. The scope, as you rightly mentioned, is very much focused on technologies, a wide range of products and services, from computers to payment terminals, from ticketing machines to e-books and e-readers. So there is a strong component on the digital domain there. And something that sometimes we tend to forget is that this legislation is not only for the private sector, so from companies like Microsoft, but it's also useful for the public procurers as well. So when our administrations, public administrations buy technology, they now have a robust piece of legislation to refer to ensure that the technology they buy is accessible to persons with disabilities, and this will obviously be supported by more technical standards that will ensure that there is this kind of coherence and this kind of certainty on what kind of accessibility users and procurers and companies need to ensure. It is true that in the disability community we felt that the act was fell short as for public transportation, so what but transport services in general, the built environment. But all in all, we are doing our best to ensure that there is this possibility for member state to take advantage of the legislation. And actually, something that we are doing in our advocacy right now is in other um, important discussions happening now in Brussels concerning other digital products or services. We refer to the Accessibility Act as a way to ensure that this will be accessible by default, which is what we all want, right? And in that sense, I know that Microsoft's journey on accessibility has been long-standing, and it's been there for many years. But we are also trying to help out or to reach out to other sectors, other businesses that may be, at least in Europe, starting to imagine and plan and address how to implement this legislation. What would be your recommendations, Jenny, to these other sectors, or how can we support them in building their capacity to cope with accessibility and to really embrace it?
Oh, it's a great question, Alejandro. And the I think what you're really getting at is how do you create a culture of
Yes.
accessibility, and how do you really make sure that this is not seen as optional, which is often the problem. I was actually chatting with a company just before this, who was like, Jenny, you know, it keeps on getting deprioritized.
Mm.
And I think that's a problem that exists. Microsoft does evaluate our products and services against all standards, and as the EN 301549, which we all have memorized, and we randomly just talk 301549. It just comes out in conversations because it's so embedded. We have a rigorous process. There is no optionality to this. And I think there are learnings there that we continue to grow in our skills. Perfection is definitely not our goal, it's progress. Um, but some of that is that it is embedded into our culture. So training is mandatory for the 200,000 plus employees. In fact, we published that training. We've got around 1.5 million that have taken some of our Microsoft accessibility training, free training that exists. LinkedIn actually has 6 incredible courses online that are free for anyone to take on accessibility training. And skilling, I think, is a really crucial component. We also really focus on hiring disabled talent, empowering disabled talent. That's my background. I came from building the disability community at Microsoft and some of the support services around that, like the Disability Answer Desk, our free support team. We've learned how best to do this, and we will continue to iterate. But what we can say is that by building culture, and this is what I say to any company, is that you're missing out on so much by seeing it as optional and not empowering and thriving that talent. And I think that's incredibly crucial as we look to this next wave of technology, with AI fiercely on all of our radars. And the incredible implications that that has as we go forward. And so, yes, it is about culture, I think, Alejandro, and I think we've got to help everyone to see this as it's not a big investment. It's easy to do, and it gives you a lot of dividends.
It's part of the, it should be, and hopefully will be part of the culture of many sectors, not only towards the potential clients or customers, but also, and I think you do this very well at Microsoft, towards your employees, and kind of ensuring that your company and your sector is can be also a job opportunity for persons with disabilities, right? So we also expect to have, with all the presence of technologies which will be accessible or are becoming more and more accessible in the workplace, that will give us also more opportunities to really address the gap between the percentage of people with and without disabilities that have access to employment opportunities.
For sure, and that's a key part of it. And maybe let's finish with by touching on the AI,
Yeah.
because it's on all. It's definitely on my agenda. In terms of where I'm spending my time right now, and I think that is that classic combination of culture and people that will hopefully power some of this generation. I think
Mm.
AI has clearly an enormous upside for people with disabilities. If we just look at some of the already out there examples, just a couple of weeks ago, we put out a new video, which is we're seeing AI, the app for the blind that's available on the iOS platform. It's been out since 2017, has embedded GPT-4.
Yeah.
And GPT-4 gives the capability of incredibly detailed answers to images, which is just the possibilities there are incredible. But it's very important, again, to be accessible, to stay grounded in this evolution, hockey stick innovation that we're in, to be grounded to standards, to make sure that anything that is created is accessible, that we build in disability data and that we innovate to paradigm change. And I think it's a great illustration of why standards like the EAA are so very important, because if you lean into some of these technologies, they really literally can change the employment and education gaps and many more. So I feel the heavy responsibility as part of this journey, and I'm grateful for your partnership as we kind of try and pull this to a close. Um, and grateful that we're going to continue to learn as we go forward on this journey.
We are also very grateful for this partnership, and be assured that also artificial intelligence is quite a hot topic right now in Brussels because of a proposal that the Commission launched on a regulation for artificial intelligence, and we are working very intensively to ensure that the members of the European Parliament next week actually will vote for including accessibility in the regulation on artificial intelligence. We believe that fundamental rights should be at the center of the regulation, and accessibility should be a core element of all the technologies that we develop in the years to come. So thank you very much, Jenny.
Thank you, Alejandro. Have a great rest of the summit, folks.
Thank you.